Welcome, Mr. Koketso, to Young Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network Business Talks. It is an honor to have you on our platform. Thank you for availing yourself at this time to share your entrepreneurship journey with us, where we get into the minds of entrepreneurs who are making impact in the marketplace for God's kingdom. How did it all start, my man?
How did it all start? Sure. So for as long as I can remember, I've always just been a guy who loves, giving people advice. I love just, I love seeing people win. Even in my young age, when I was in team sports, I would always find myself, taking a leadership of sort. And then I realized that I love developing people. Yeah. And from there, I started just, always find myself when I'm around a circle of friends, I'm just motivating them, inspiring them, sharing stories that are inspirational. And as I grow, then I'm like, I love this thing, and I have an IT background, and I was in IT at the time. But I was like, I wish I could do this full time. I wish I could just develop people full time, until I then realized there's a career in it. There's a career in human capital development. And then that's how it started. So it started before I even knew that there is an industry for it. I was already doing it. And then I realized that, wow, there's actually a whole industry for it. And that's how I got into it.
So you basically realized the gift at a young age, but you did not know that there were channels to foster it. Okay, now it's your leadership expert. Okay.
I wouldn't even say I discovered the gift. I didn't even know that the gift was there. Yes. It was just something I loved doing. I didn't know the gift was there. I didn't know the ability was there. It was just something I loved doing. And only later in my life, when people then started coming to me and asking me to go and speak and asking me for advice and asking me to guide them, I was like, wow, so people actually are getting something out of what I'm doing. So I might actually have a unique gift here. And then I explored it.
Okay. And then how did you formulate this into a business? I know you're a leadership training expert and a human capital development expert. How are you able to move that, seeing that people are attracted to this gift that you have, to the ability that you have? Every time they speak to you, they get directed, they get motivated. How did you then get to make this a business and let it take you into the journey of entrepreneurship?
So I don't like short-term stuff. I don't like things that I always ask myself, so what? And I would talk to guys, and I would go to seminars where I'm invited, and I'll speak. And then I'll ask myself, and then, so what? Now I've spoken, people are excited, and then what? And then I'm like, how about I take this content that I'm sharing and develop practical tools that can help people actually move their lives? Because I go to a seminar and I say to someone, you need to believe in yourself. You need to have vision. You need to do this in order to go forward. You need to do this and this and that. And that's great, but how? And I realized that most people don't struggle with what they must do. They struggle with how they must do it. And I said, then let me package these ideas, let me package these thoughts and these talks into practical steps that I can give an individual and say, this is how you do it. And then I charge them a fee for that, because now I spend time developing tools and material that people can do to move them forward. Because I realized that in speaking alone, you get people excited and fired up, but people need practical tools to be able to take that motivation and turn it into momentum. So it was always just about, how do you turn motivation into momentum and momentum into money? How do you monetize that momentum? So then we move from motivation to momentum, and then we monetize it.
Wow, that's a very, very great answer with some wisdom there. taking it from the fact that it started from the gift, you saw it, you packaged it into a product, and then you gave it monetary value, and then you traded it in the market. That's powerful. I want to jump into your business now. You are managing director at StratisQ Africa, and you're both the leadership experts. How did that all come about?
So what happened was I was running this business, doing this leadership development, and I was focusing more on workplace, interventions, organizational development, human capacity development, and all that. And then I realized that, some of our solutions, we get into a business and we say, you know what, how do you, for example, get your people to be productive? And then we give them steps of how to be productive. How do you get people to we give them steps on things to do. But then we realize that in some companies, it's not working. Our steps are not working. It's actually, they're working in very few companies. In most companies, after we have left, they go back to where they were. And need to say, but what is the problem? Because these steps are great. And I realized that the problem was not in the steps. The problem was not in the medication we were giving them, because we were giving them medication. The problem was not in the medication. The problem was in the diagnosis. We did not diagnose the problem, because every company has a unique challenge. When the performance is low in an organization, it's not always the same reason. Every organization has drivers of performance, have drivers of engagement, have drivers of culture, have drivers of leadership culture, and all those things. And then we realized that as a business, we don't have the capacity to diagnose businesses. And then there was a company that specializes in diagnosing culture in organization, that does organizational assessment, engagement assessment, that just works with assessment. That can come into your company and assess it and tell you that, no, your problem is communication. Then we can give you a communication package, not just now give you communication without knowing if communication indeed is your problem. And then we realize that we have a good product, but it does not answer, it doesn't solve our client's problem. And guys, then we partnered with them, and then we formed StratisQ Africa.
Okay, that's amazing. It comes to what business is solving people's problems. So they were able to diagnose the problem. You guys were just giving people solutions.
It's like if you go to the doctor today, and the doctor comes to you and say, Milton, here are some medication. Here's some medication for your headache. Here's some. If you say to the doctor, I have a headache, and then he says, okay, here's some medication for the headache. Then you drink the medication, and then your headache doesn't go away. Then you realize that, no, it's actually not the headache. Headache is a symptom of something deeper. So this company that helped us to be able to then diagnose the cause of the symptoms, so that when we give solutions, we are hitting the mark.
Okay. Tell me something. You guys formulated a partnership. Their company came together with yours. I want to ask you, what is the importance of partnership in building a successful enterprise? Most especially for young entrepreneurs. Most of the time we have small businesses, and you can see that if these businesses can merge, they can build something beautiful. I just want to ask you, what is the importance of those partnerships in business, and how do they help in building a successful enterprise?
I think primarily is trust. There's got to be trust. There's got to be trust between the two people. And I mean, trust, they say trust is built in drops, but it's lost in buckets. You need to be able to trust each other. That's number one. And trust might be in the beginning, you give it, and then as you grow, it develops. So I think that's the first thing. But primarily values. We need to have the same set of values. If you get into a partnership with someone who does not have the same set of values as you are going to come into all kinds of trouble. So your values, what you value, that if you value the same thing, then you have a strong foundation. You are able to weather even the storms that come. When there's disagreements, as there will be disagreements, what then kind of like sets a tone, what kind of like brings you down is what do we value. So it's not about now who's right, who's wrong. It's about what is it that we value. We say we value our customer. Then if we are fighting about something, and we say we value our customer, then we're like, the decision that we are going to take, even though we're disagreeing, it needs to be the one that shows that we value the customer. Then that value becomes the deciding factor on how we move forward. But if we do not agree on values, then we have problems.
Wow. Okay. Mr. Koketso, I want to ask you now, you've been in business for some years, right? I want to ask you, from the time you started and you went into entrepreneurship to this day where you're managing director of StratisQ Africa, what has kept you going as an entrepreneur? What has been the motivation that has kept you going through the good and bad times?
Yeah, I think it's purpose, It's the idea, living for the idea that I have a calling that is bigger than myself. To say, God didn't just drop me here on earth, but in fact, he brought me here to fulfill a certain purpose and calling. And I'm like, if I quit, there are people whose quality of life is connected to me living my purpose.
Yeah.
I give you an example. If Moses did not confront Pharaoh, what would have happened to the Egyptians? So he needed to live out his purpose so that people can enjoy the promise of God.
Wow.
I say the promise of God to people is always connected to purpose. So he gives someone a purpose and he gives a nation a promise. And when that person lives out their purpose, the nation enjoys the promise of God. And I'm like, if I don't live out my purpose, there's someone who will miss out on the promise of God.
Wow. Okay, now can we go to speak now about your expertise? I'm going to ask you a few questions about your expertise on leadership that are going to be beneficial to our entrepreneurs, taking advantage of the skills you have and the knowledge you have. I want to ask you, what is a leader for you? What would you define someone who's a leader?
Yeah, I think a leader is someone who is able to provide vision and allow people the space to grow within that vision. So you provide a vision that is bigger than you, that is bigger than people that you are leading. And then you give them space, tools and resources to grow and find their space within that vision. If people must when they are in your leadership, they must feel like they know where everyone is going, but they know where they are going as individuals. So you need to create space, because the vision that you share with people, it must be a vision that grows them.
Yeah.
And in that you need to create space that allows people to grow. And I think that's what leadership is. Leadership is providing vision and a space for people to grow within that vision.
Wow. So it's important that the platform is also created for the individuals that you are leading as well to grow personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It can't be that people, because unless they're growing, they might not reach the vision. So there needs to be an element where you are creating space for them to grow. As leaders, we they say a leader produces other leaders.
Yeah.
If you cannot produce followers if you are a leader. As a leader, you need to produce other leaders. And how do you produce other leaders? You create space for people to show up.
Okay. Going further with that subject, in organizations, what's the importance of leadership in driving organizational goals?
So I think the central thing about leadership is direction. You are able to point everyone in the same direction. You are not, your one duty is to provide and clarify the why and give people the space to discover the how. Yeah, so that's your role there, is to show them and explain and clarify the why and give them the space to discover the how. Yeah.
In terms of small businesses, startups, medium enterprises, how does the leader ensure that, okay, they direct the team and they lead the strategy in terms of the why, and at the same time be able to be with the people in driving that vision? Because most of the time then there's the gap between what you have as a vision as a leader and what your people have in their minds according to where the organization is going.
I think we always need to transition from leading people to leading with people. And when we're leading with people, it means leadership is a function and not a position. Then we are able to live with them, to spend time with them, to hear from them. You're always asking for feedback. As a leader, that's one of the critical things that you must be good at. You must always be asking for feedback. You must create an environment where people can give you feedback. You must constantly ask feedback. Why? Because when people, there's nothing that shows you where someone is by asking feedback from them. You say, what do you think we're doing right? What do you think we're doing wrong? And from there, you are able to see if this person has caught the vision or not. Are they working in the same direction or not? And you are able then to serve them, because leadership is about servanthood. So now, once you have discovered what they are lacking, what they are understanding, if they understand the vision or not, then you are able to serve them because you have recreated that environment.
Okay. And then what are those strategies and organizations that organizations and individuals can use to unlock their potential and activate their potential?
Say that again. Ask the question again.
What are the strategies that organizations can use to unlock their potential, or individuals can use to unlock their potentials? Because we see a lot of organizations, they have potentials, but they can't unlock them. And you in the leadership space, you could have some strategies and ways that can be unlocked.
I think, like I said, ask for feedback. When people feel like when you ask for people's feedback, they feel like their voice matter, and that unlocks their potential, not only their potential, but also their buy-in. So ask feedback, listen to people. When you listen to your people, you are creating an environment that is unlocking potential, create an environment of innovation and creativity. Allow people the space to be creative, and create a space where people can have autonomy. Don't micromanage people. Trust people, and give room for mistakes. Give room for people to make mistakes. It's fine. You fix it, but give them room to make mistakes. The one thing that you have ultimate say in is the vision. Are we still serving the vision? Are we still within our values? Anything else, give people decentralized decision making. Give people space to make decisions, to engage, to give you feedback. Flatten your structure as far as possible. Don't make it difficult for people to get to you, to talk to you, and allow people to share their ideas.
Okay. I'm going to ask you something that's very relevant to Young Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network now. which our focus is the kingdom of God. And we want to learn as much as we can as we do business about also kingdom impact by studying the life of Jesus Christ. You know, he's the most impactful person we know today. And I want to ask you, in terms of leadership, what are some leadership qualities or characteristics that you see in the life of Jesus that you apply in your business and in your personal life today?
So you know, Jesus walks to this woman at the well, and this woman was an adulterer. She was divorced 5 times, so her life was quite shady.
Yeah.
But when Jesus comes to this lady, she says, "Give me some water." What we learn from that is even the most, the lowest person has something to offer. Jesus is able to see usefulness in this woman, even in her state of brokenness. And as leaders, we must always treat everyone as having capacity to contribute. Jesus says to this woman, "Give me some water." This woman is an adulterer. He doesn't talk about, no, you are this and this, your background is this and this. He doesn't start there. He starts by saying, "Give me water." What is he saying to this woman? He's saying you have something to contribute. Regardless of where you find yourself, you have something to contribute. You are useful. You have fruit that you can offer. You have fruitfulness inside of you. And as leaders, that must be people's experience when they encounter us. They must feel, wow, I have something to offer. We must always ask people, what can you do? What can you offer? What can you contribute? At any level, we must make people feel like they can contribute, they matter, they have something to offer. We inspire them regardless rather of where they find themselves, whether they are a cleaner, whether they are a street kid, whether they are a prostitute, regardless of where they might find themselves, we must always leave people with an impression that they have something to give, something to offer.
Okay, you also spoke about fruitfulness, that everyone has fruit to give in any occasion, in any environment. I want to ask you, what's the importance of self-development and having a growth mindset in business and as an individual as well?
If your vision, if you at this very moment, you feel you are capable to reach your vision, it's not big enough. Your vision must stretch you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a God-breathed vision. If it's a God-given vision, it is always going to look, feel, and sound bigger than the person you are right now. It becomes your responsibility to then grow to the level that the vision requires you to be. The reason why God gives us this big vision is because he does not want us to settle for the small people we have accepted ourselves to be. He says there's a giant that I've created in you, and that giant needs to wake up. And how he wakes up that giant is by giving you a vision that is way bigger than what you are right now and what you have right now. God's vision most of the time is going to require you more than what you have right now. It's going to require more than what you know right now. It's going to require more than what you are able to do right now. And then he says, develop yourself. Because unless you develop yourself, you will not be able to reach that vision. Unless you invest in a growth mindset, because a growth mindset says, what I know is not always the truth. It is just what I know. My experience is not always the truth. So I must be open-minded, because I have what I know as truth now has been shaped by my experiences. But where God is taking me, I have not experienced things there. So I need to be open-minded to be able to. I mean, right now, I just planted a church. And I feel like going back to some of the pastors that I used to judge and apologize. Because I realized that some of the stuff that I judged them for, it was out of ignorance. I did not know better. My level of exposure was limited.
Yeah.
So you need to keep an open mind because you might be wrong. You must live with that thing of saying, I might be, yes, it has worked for me all this time, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Or there might be a better way of doing it. You need to live with that sense of curiosity and open mind.
Okay. Mr. Koketso, I like what you just spoke about right now when you were speaking about God will give you a big vision that will demand that you expand your potential, you grow, and you self-develop yourself. And I've also seen you, because you have this gift for leadership, for speaking, but you're still studying at UCT, studying strategic leadership and all of that. It just shows that it's very important that we also equip ourselves. Even if we have the gift, you can still equip it. You can still train yourself for it. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't arrive.
Yeah.
Don't arrive. The minute you arrive, then you're losing it. You need to constantly develop yourself. And why? Because the nature of the challenges we face today is evolving. Things are evolving, things are changing. So what used to be, I'll tell you a story. I did work for one of the big companies here. I was invited to go and speak. And I had been speaking at their smaller event, and then they invited me to speak now at their NDA party where the CEO was there. And after that, and I was doing well as a speaker, and this guy really changed my life. The CEO comes to me and says, "Wow, man, that's a really great speech that you just gave us." I'm like, I'm chuffed with myself. No, I'm glad. He says, "But I will never hire you to come into my business." I'm like, "Why?" He says, "Man, I have a staff that is demotivated, that is not performing. That speech you just gave is great, but it's not going to change their level of performance." He says, "I have staff that is disengaged. I have staff that is busy. There are subcultures in my business that are undermining our business culture. I need someone who can help me with that. And a speech is not going to do it." He says, "You have potential." And then in that, saying that, I was like, then I need to work, because businesses don't need a motivational speaker. They need a business developer, someone who will come and help them with the real problems, not just someone who's going to hype people. So you see what God had called me to do this, but I was still playing at the lower level thinking I am great. Someone had to wake me up and say, "No, there is more. You are not that great. You need to develop." And I went to school and I just started developing myself, so that when I sit with a CEO, I can't tell when a CEO, this guy said to me, "If I was to say to you, motivate me now about my business, where my business is, are you going to tell me to believe in myself?" Because I'm a CEO, I believe in myself already. I want to know, how do I take my business forward? And I realized that I could not answer that. How does he take? He says, "So you can't call yourself a strategist. You can't help me take my business forward." And I had to go and get the skill.
Wow. That's deep, eh? That's deep. Mr. Koketso, we just came from, or we're still in COVID-19. A lot of things have changed, and it came at a time already where technology and innovation is moving at a very fast pace. And you in that space where you help companies with strategy, consulting, to be able to manage change and remain agile during this time. I want to ask you, how can we as entrepreneurs remain agile in the midst of all this change, so that we thrive and we do not sit back and just let change impact us, but we become movers and shakers in change?
Collaborate. Collaboration is the best thing you can do for yourself. Because here's the thing, in a value chain of a business, there is many different layers. And if you're going to try to cover every layer of that, you're going to slow yourself down. So find someone who's doing it better and collaborate with them. Stop trying to figure out the finances. Find someone who has a small accounting firm and outsource those functions to them. Find someone who has a small HR firm, outsource that. Because if everyone is an expert in those things, you create an ecosystem that you are able to move quick, all of you at the same time. Then you know that you have someone who focuses on your accounting. You have someone who focuses only on your IT solutions, while you focus on your thing that you primarily do. When someone says to you, are your books ready? You're like, yeah. You know that you don't have to now go and study accounting. That's going to cost you time. Most of the time, if you want to do everything, you are not agile, because now you have to move this big ship. But if everyone playing their part, so I say to you, create an ecosystem of capable people, and you see how quickly you are able to change and adapt and move.
Okay, thanks for that answer. Right now, we're gonna go into your journey with God. As Young Kingdom Entrepreneurs Network, we also very, very keen on understanding the entrepreneurs' journey with God, on how they started and how they got to where they are today, both in their bad times and in their good times. With you, I want to ask Mr. Koketso, how has your journey with God helped you in business and to be where you are today as the managing director of StratisQ Africa?
My favorite scripture is Philippians 1:6. It says, he who has begun this great work in me is faithful to see to completion.
Yeah.
The first point is that someone bigger than me, greater than me, started this work. It was not my smart, it was not my genius, it was not because I'm great, it was because of God's design. It was him who designed and purposed that this work start in me. And he then says he's not an irresponsible father. He will see it to completion.
Yeah.
And every time I come to a deadlock, so let me start here. Every time I succeed, I give him praise because I know that he is the one who's doing it. I know that he's the one who has done it. When I succeed, I know that it's not because I am great, but because he is great in me. So it keeps me humble. It keeps me knowing that without him, I would not have achieved this. And when I am failing and things are going tough, I know that he will see to completion. I know that this is not the end. What looks like the end is never the end, because he is faithful to see it to completion. So when I'm winning, I know that it's him. When I'm failing, I know that he will take me forward. And that scripture has been in my marriage, in my work, in my personal life, everywhere. That scripture has just been my anchor to say, number one, I'm not here by mistake. I'm here by design. Someone began a great work in me, and that someone is God. When I'm struggling, I know that he's faithful to see the work that he has begun in me to completion.
Okay. He who has begun a good work in you shall see it into completion. Yes. Thank you for that scripture. And then what are those kingdom principles that you have practiced as a person to both grow personally and also to grow your business?
It says, he who's faithful with little shall be trusted with much. I always ask myself, in the 10 rands that I have, am I faithful with it? With my wife that I have, am I faithful? With every little thing that God, with the health that God has given me, am I faithful with that? And that is the one kingdom principle that just governs. You say, am I faithful with what God has given me? Or am I complaining and say, hey, I don't have this, hey, when I still have little, am I complaining or am I faithful with that? Because most of we don't get to experience much because we are not faithful with little. So that is every time I have where I feel like I don't have enough, I ask myself, have I been faithful with little? If I feel like my team is not performing well, I ask myself, while I'm faithful with them when they were performing well, when they, in small tasks. So he who's faithful with little will be entrusted with much. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Now I want you to just expound on that scripture. So what you're telling us that if you are faithful with what you have now, whether it's small, medium, he's able to then grow it.
He will trust you with more. Yeah.
He will trust you with more. Entrust you
Yeah.
with more. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I want to ask Mr. Koketso, with individuals like you who have this grace for business and for the marketplace to make impact there, what do you think is your role in the kingdom of God, and why has God given you this grace?
I think, so I'm in both. So when God tasked Nehemiah with the role of going to rebuild the walls of Jericho, there were men who were building the walls of the city, and there were men that were building the temple. It can't be that as Christian we're busy rebuilding the temple and we neglect the walls of the city. And I believe that the marketplace leaders' responsibility is to rebuild the walls of the city, while the church leaders are building the walls of the church. Because if the walls of our city are broken, the church is exposed.
Yeah.
So it is what do you mean by building the walls of the city? Giving people work, giving platforms to live out their calling, giving people ability to feed their families, solving social problems, moving the society forward.
Yeah.
So as a kingdom business person, our role is to build walls, and church leaders, their role is to build the temple. Where these two come together, you have a healthy community.
Wow. Okay. And then you're speaking about the kingdom business leader is to build walls in the city, right? How are we able to do that? How are we able to advance or build those walls you're talking about in the marketplace? What are the strategies to use?
There's a guy who said, he was a Christian shoemaker. And then he said, people will know that I am Christian, not by putting crosses on every shoe that I make, but by making the best shoe I can make. It's not by our businesses having a cross at the door, but it's about us giving people the best service we can give them with integrity, with value, with love, with faithfulness. It is about being honest businessmen and businesswomen. It is about having integrity. It's about loving people and solving community. It's about not being greedy. Those are the things that we do. It's not about having a big sign where you say Jesus owns this business while you're treating your people unfairly. It's about treating people. Those biblical principles is about living them out. It is not about shouting. Yeah, it's good to have a prayer meeting every morning at your work. But if you're treating your people unfairly, that prayer meeting means nothing. It's great to have a cell group at work, but if you are not honest in your business dealings, that cell group means nothing. Yeah.
Okay. And then
if you are praying every morning, but when we come to your business, your services are poor, then that prayer, it doesn't help. That prayer that you're praying, it doesn't help.
Okay. So we have to also lead with excellence and integrity.
Yes, sir. With honesty, treating people well, and all those things. The fruit of the spirit, being patient, being kind, being all that, you need to live them.
And it's something we saw also in people like Daniel. For the kings of that time to acknowledge that God exists, they saw the excellent spirit that was in them.
Yes. Same with Joseph. It was the same thing. Everything they did was so well. That's why they were promoted. The favor of God was upon them, but they worked hard with diligence and excellence.
My brother, I want to speak now about the importance of giving or planting as a business. I want to ask you about that. What's the importance of that area? Because, you know, as kingdom-minded people, we know that we can work, you know, and be integral and do everything that's necessary in business. But there's also a principle and a law that helps in advancing the work that we do, which is giving. I want to ask, what do you see as the importance of that, and how has it helped you in your business?
So I think it goes back to what I said. He who has begun this good work in me. So who does the work belong to? It belongs to him. Business belongs to him. I'm a steward of the business, but it belongs to him.
Yeah. So you don't own it.
I don't own it. It's not my business. It's God's business. And I constantly need to ask God, with the income that is coming, I'm just a steward, and I need to constantly ask him, with the income that is coming, how do I serve my community? With the income that is coming, how do I serve your church? With the income that is coming, how? Because you must understand that the church as a structure is an MPO, it's an NGO. It's not a money generator. It's not supposed to be a money generating organization, because both the poor, the rich, the broke, the wealthy, and everyone must able to find home there. But the pastor needs to eat, the church, the lights needs to be on, the building needs to be maintained, and that's where business owners can contribute. There is no obligation for the business owner to contribute financially to the church. There is an obligation for every Christian to contribute financially to the church. I think we need to stop putting a burden. I'm speaking both as a pastor and as a business person. We need to stop putting a burden on business people as if above and beyond the natural Christian, they must now give their millions. No, they give because they have that pool of resources, but because they are Christians, not because they are business people. They give from their strength, and their strength oftentimes is financial muscle. But we need to be careful of making business people feel like, you know, above and beyond just being giving as a child of God. Now that you are in business, your business was started so that you can finance the church. No. The business was not started so that you can finance the church. The business God started to change the community, to give people work and all that thing. With those resources, as it is the business that belongs to God, then you are able to channel some of those resources to the church.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that balance. Thank you for really bringing that balance. Mr. Koketso, we are about to end this interview. I want to just ask you a few last questions. Any lessons learned that in business that you'd be willing to share to our entrepreneurs on our platform, both good and bad?
It takes time. It takes time. You know, we always say it's only a matter of time. I say it's only a matter of time if you have put in the hours. We need to always know that it takes time. To young entrepreneurs out there, it's going to take longer than you think. It's going to cost you more than what you think. It's going to demand from you more than what you think you can give. But it is going to cost way less than what God has. So you need to constantly depend on God. Walk with God every step of the way, but be willing to put in the hours, play the long game. Play the long game. When one person buys in a day, treat that one person. You know, here's what I always say. If you treat your one customer like you would treat 1,000 customers, you will soon have 1,000 customers. If you treat one customer like you would 1,000 customers, you will soon have 1,000 customers. Those are the lessons that I've learned, man, to say it takes time. Most often time, what you have expectations on how things are going to go. Then you must drop that expectation to 50%, if not less, because it's good to have faith in this, but you must be able to say you are expecting 100 people. If 20 people show up, you must be excited, celebrate, and serve them well, and wake up tomorrow and do it again and keep improving and do it again and keep improving. Don't believe the hype that you can make million rands in a day. It doesn't work. Play the long game.
Okay. My last thing was any word of advice, but I think you've given us advice already. But do you still have any word of advice that you'd like to give as we close this interview?
If success only required grace, we would all be successful, because we have all been given the same measure of grace. Success requires work. It requires prayer, requires diligence, requires faithfulness. It requires so much more. And you know why it is going to cost you more than what you have? Because most of us, we walk around, we do not know the depth of what God has put inside of us. So why he gives us this big vision is because there is gold inside of you that he wants to extrapolate. There is a king in you that he wants to bring out. So when the challenges come, don't run away. Press in. God is trying to extract that gold out of you. He's trying to get that king out of you. He's trying to get that queen out of you. He's trying to get that winner out of you. So when the going gets tough, keep pressing on. Focus. Don't keep starting over. Focus.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. I feel so inspired, so motivated myself. Thank you for availing yourself on this platform, Mr. Koketso. I hope we'll have you again soon for just the leadership training on one of our master classes, but we'll get into discussion with that. Thank you so much, man.
I would love that.